What would you do if you had nothing to fear? What would you change if you had nothing to lose? What would you pursue if you didn't care what anyone else thought of you? Welcome to the Have You Seen Me Now podcast. I'm your host, Sherilyn. Have you seen me now? Have you seen me now? Welcome to episode 3 of the Have You Seen Me Now podcast. Now, before I introduce today's special guest, I have to just tell you guys what happened to me over the weekend. So I'm out running errands and I had gone to the gym and was feeling good. I got on my workout. I popped into a store and then I headed back home. But when I pulled into the driveway, I realized that I had loaded water jugs into the back of the car and I had planned to stop at the water store and refill the water, but I had failed to do that. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go inside and get some food to eat and then I'll pop back to the water store. So headed out to the water store. And as I'm driving back home, I'm turning into our residential little neighborhood here. And my car just makes this awful noise and comes to this screeching, kind of halt. And there's this jogger running by who sees the whole thing happen. And I'm like, I look at him and he looks at me and we're both like, what just happened? And I roll down my window and I'm like, did I just hit something? Like what's going on? And he says, I don't know. Let me look. And so he goes around and looks at my tire and he's like, oh my gosh, your wheel cracked off. And so basically my wheel cracked off the axle or whatever. The car wasn't going to be going anywhere. And so we had to call the police and they had to come help direct traffic. And then he calls a tow truck because some guys had tried to help me push the car out of the intersection and it would not budge, And so anyways, the whole experience, thankfully I wasn't going 75 miles per hour on the freeway. It really could have been so much worse and I have so much to be thankful for. I was thinking it could have been 10 times worse. So I'm thankful that no one was hurt, and the car can hopefully be repaired. We still have to find that out. But anyways, but really the thought that I had from this whole situation was really kind of the day after and things start to hit me a little bit. But I was thinking do you ever just have that feeling in your life where you feel like the wheels just come off? When everything just starts to go haywire. Anybody? Because that's life, right? It's full of ups and downs and highs and lows and challenges and triumphs. But I think how we respond when the wheels come off is really important. Because I think a lot of life is learning how to pivot and be flexible and be inventive and resourceful and to trust that the creator of the universe is always guiding our path. And, actually my guest on the show today has an incredible story about dealing with life's challenges, setbacks, disappointments, changes, and growth. So stick around because in a few minutes, we're going to hear from my dear friend, Heather Evans. And no matter where you are at in your journey, even if the wheels have come off recently, I think she's going to have some encouragement that's really going to touch your heart today. So Heather is a singer-songwriter currently based in Columbus, Ohio, and she spent 5 years in Sacramento, California, a time that really ramped up her music career. And in her 5 years on the West Coast, Heather left her mark by founding the Sacramento Songwriter Circle, this incredible music showcase and community. If any of you guys from the Songwriter Circle are listening, hello and welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're tuning in. You already know that Heather is amazing, and now the rest of the world gets to know her too. In addition to all of the stuff on the local front, Heather won the 2019 Sacramento Music Awards, the Sammys, in the singer-songwriter category. And her music has been featured on CNN, MTV, Fox, NBC, FREEFORM, and more. Over and above all the industry recognition and accolades, Heather's main goal is to spread positivity through her music. And I just have to say, she does this so beautifully. So you're not going to want to miss hearing all about Heather's journey that took her from dreams stolen by heart failure to absolutely killing it as a mom and songwriter. And my hope at the end of every podcast is that you are inspired to say to all the haters in your life, or even to your own inner critic, yeah. I might have been a lost, insecure, utter mess back then, but man, have you seen me now? This episode is brought to you by Starboard Stride, a unique boutique production company, record label, and singer-songwriters collective based in San Luis Obispo, California. Starboard Stride is focused on writing songs for the TV ad and film industry and developing new artists, songwriters, podcasts, and producers. Visit starboardstride.com today and mention the Have You Seen Me Now podcast for 10% off artist development, podcast production, or coaching packages. Visit today's show notes for website and details. Greetings, stellar rock stars. I am so excited to have my dear friend Heather Evans in the house. How you doing, girl?
I am doing so good. I'm really excited to be on the podcast because I'm a huge fan.
That's so sweet.
I'm hooked. I legit cried on the first episode.
Aww.
And then hearing Katie's story as well was just really encouraging.
Oh, man.
It was so good.
Yeah, I love her story. It's so amazing. Well, I think listeners are going to be equally as inspired by your story today. And I only know little bits of your story, so I'm excited to hear more of the nitty-gritty details today. And I cannot wait to dive into this. But before we do, I just wanted to touch base so the listeners know how we know each other. So what's been cool is that our paths have intersected over the years in lots of different little ways. But I was trying to think back to where it first intersected and how long ago that really was.
I mean, I was a teenager, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
You had just released Fearless Now and you were playing at a music festival thing. And I heard you play and I was just like, man, that song resonates with me so much. And it was like an anthem for what I needed at that moment, you know?
Wow.
So it's just crazy. I was kind of like your fan first, I guess. And then we became friends in real life.
That's so cool. Well, one of my sweetest memories of our friendship and of you just being the sweetest person ever was a couple Christmases ago. And maybe it's even been 3 or 4 years now because I was living in a different place. Yeah. But I just remember you reaching out to me and you wanted to send me something. And I was like, this is so sweet. And you sent me this little care package and I was having a really hard year and I was alone at Christmas. And I just remember how sweet it was. And you sent this care package and there was a journal in it and the sweetest encouraging note and just really touched my heart, Heather. You just have that thing, you are so good at encouraging other people. And that was why you were one of the first people I thought of as wanting to have you as a guest on the podcast, because I just know that your heart is to see other people excel and succeed and shine in their gifting. And so I just appreciate how you've been a cheerleader for me and a sweet friend. And so thank you so much for coming on today with me and just having this chat. It means so much.
I'm so excited to be here.
All right. So let's just dive deep and head into your story because there's so much to talk about and I can't wait to hear all of it. So let's start at the very beginning and let the listeners know how it started for you.
It started for me as a 15-year-old bright-eyed little teenager. And my dad, he bought me studio time for my 15th birthday.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And it was so amazing for me as a 15-year-old that my parents believed in me so much that they got me studio time. And that's really where it started for me, my love of music. And I ended up recording a full-length album.
Wow.
And I released it when I was 17 years old. And the songs on that album ended up on MTV's Laguna Beach, Nickelodeon's South of Nowhere, and like an indie film.
I'm fangirling already, girl. Like Laguna Beach, like I've watched that recently again, and it's the best show.
I loved it. As a teenager,
incredible.
I mean, I was dead, that my songs were on
like
Laguna
I've
Beach.
arrived. I've like peaked already at 17.
Literally, I was like, I'm done. See you. Goodbye.
Oh man, that's amazing.
If I do nothing else with my life, I'm fine.
That's a pretty big start.
The cool thing about it too was some of the songs that were on the show were like these breakup songs, but had this healing, hopeful aspect to them. One of the songs was called Over You. And I remember people were emailing me saying, Heather, this song helped me through this situation that I went through.
Wow.
And I discovered that music is great for yourself, for healing and like to help you work through things. But it's not only for me, but it's for other people to help them heal. And I think I carried that with me the rest of my music career till now,
I love that.
I ended up getting married to my husband, Brett Evans. He is the most amazing man. He's very supportive of my music career as well.
That's awesome.
And I released this album called For My Generation, and it was very outward focused. I wrote a song to raise awareness about human trafficking and did a music video with it to raise awareness and joined up with some local organizations and things. And then For My Generation was on an independent film called The Unitards, which is like a Napoleon Dynamite kind of funny.
Oh my gosh, I have to go check this out.
Movie. It's hilarious. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
That's epic.
But so epic. Shortly after I released that in 2008, I ended up getting pregnant, but we had a miscarriage.
Oh gosh.
And it was devastating to me, honestly. After that happened, I sort of fell into this deep depression for 8 months. I mean, I couldn't get up out of bed in the morning. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just crying constantly.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to work through that kind of grief. And I didn't understand it because I feel like miscarriage is something that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
I never heard about it until I experienced it myself. It took me a good while to get up out of that depression. And I ended up writing this album called Out of the Woods. And it's literally about walking out of depression and anxiety. It's like I had this dream and I had this picture of me walking through this deep, dark woods. And it was the further in I went, the darker it got. And I couldn't see the light out anymore. And that's such like a picture of depression and anxiety and even addictions. It's like the further in you go, the harder it is to find your way out.
Wow.
And music really got me out of that in that season. It allowed me to process through my emotions and work out of that time. And I ended up recording an album specifically for parents who have lost children.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Songs for Healing. And I created some music videos 9 years later to go along with the songs on that project.
Heather, that's so powerful. And like you're saying, it's such a topic that's not talked about, and it's obviously a very tender subject for people. And so I just think that's huge. I hope you guys will all go check out Heather's work and that. And I love how I've seen that in my own life. That usually it's in those darkest times of my life that I create my best art, right? It's like when I channel the pain and the discouragement and the questions and the doubts into expressing my heart, then suddenly I end up with this vehicle that helps others, almost like gives them like, I've heard it talked about like songs almost like greeting cards, and you're able to sign your name to the song like a greeting card. Like, this is like a song that I could have wrote. Like I relate to it so much. Like you just sang my story, right?
And that's the power of music. It's so healing and beautiful, and the fact that I get to be a part of that in people's lives is amazing, and it's the most rewarding thing for me. I've walked through so many hard things, but it's good to remember that, there's a quote. So the quote says this: "Breathe, darling. This is just a chapter. It's not your whole story. Breathe, darling. This is just a chapter. It's not your whole story."
Yeah.
So it's like, though I was walking through the darkest of times, like we have to believe that it's going to get better. This is just a chapter. This is just a season.
Yeah.
There's going to be so much good on the other side. And I had to hold on to that hope in that season of depression. I ended up getting pregnant with my son, Trust Emmanuel. And I was so scared. Honestly, the moment I found out I was pregnant, I was like, no matter how long I get to be pregnant, I'm going to cherish this life in me, because I know how fleeting it is and how fragile it is. And so I pretty quickly got extremely ill, like extreme nausea and vomiting, to the fact where I had to be on IVs and in the hospital.
Wow.
Because I couldn't keep any food down. I couldn't put anything on my mouth without just like throwing up instantly.
Oh my gosh.
And so my body was in starvation mode. Like the doctors were like, you've got to try to eat. You've got to try to keep some stuff down, or else your baby's not going to make it and you're not going to make it. Like, that's the reality that we're dealing with here. This is serious. I have hyperemesis gravidarum is what it's called. And so in that time, I had to lay down music completely, was in and out of the hospital. I ended up having some heart issues and then some blood pressure issues. And when I delivered Trust, everything that could go wrong basically did go wrong. And I had the most traumatic birth, and I was just so grateful that he was here and healthy and good. And I spent 2 days in the hospital, and I wasn't feeling well, but they sent me home. When I was home, I told my mom, I was like, I feel like if I close my eyes, I'm not going to wake up.
Oh, wow.
And I could hardly breathe. And I just couldn't catch my breath. So my mom, she was like, I'm taking you back to the hospital. They ended up giving me blood transfusions because I had lost a lot of blood. And then they sent me home again. I was getting double vision. And then my mom, she took me back to the hospital. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. You should always listen to your mom.
I listen to mom.
That's
Mom knows
the
best.
So they took me back to the hospital. And that was the moment that the doctor was like, she has congestive heart and lung failure.
Wow.
Like, you need to call her husband, get him here now, because she might not make it through the night.
Wow.
And that moment for me, like, I heard it, but I didn't comprehend it. And I was kind of at that point where I'm like, hey, I am ready to go. Like, I'm done fighting.
Wow.
But I just like had to keep hanging on for trust and for my family, It was that light bulb moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, do the dreams in your heart, because tomorrow's not promised to you, And it was like this shift where I had come face to face with death,
That's intense. And I remember having a similar realization, like when I lost my mom, of that sense of the fragility of life. When you start to realize how short life is and how precious it is, it does. It awakens something in you. A fire kind of gets lit. And
it woke me up.
Wow.
And I think I was so afraid before. I was so afraid of what other people thought of me. I was so afraid of failing. But then I realized I'm like, here I am I think I was 23 years old, about ready for my life to be over.
Wow.
What do I have to lose now? You know what I mean? I still had to put music on hold in that time, and I didn't get back to it for a while. And that's okay. Like, you got to go through the healing process. And I had some pretty bad health issues after that to work through. I kind of also questioned, should I lay down music forever? Because now I'm a mom. Does that mean I have to give up music? You kind of like have these thoughts with yourself. And like, is it frivolous? Is doing music just frivolous? And is it really something I should be doing with my life? And I had to come face to face with that. And something I realized was Trust needs to see his mom go after his dreams so that he knows it's safe that he can go after his dreams.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that has stuck with me over the years, is he's come with me to every like things that I've done, all my music videos. He's been a part of all of it.
Yeah.
And how beautiful that is. And that he'll always know that he can chase after his dreams and go after the things in his heart. It was crazy because 4.5 years later, I found out I was pregnant again. I wasn't going to have any more kids. I mean, I had post-traumatic stress, and I just want to encourage people too that it's okay to get mental help. If you feel in over your head about something, or you need to talk to somebody, if you're in the depths of depression, or if you're having mental anguish, I think that's something that's not talked about enough, and people aren't empowered to do that. And I even felt kind of weird about it, but I'm a living, walking testimony of how much it helps. Yeah. And the moment that I got done with counseling for walking through post-traumatic stress and all that, I find out the next week that I am pregnant with my daughter, Story Joy. I'm like, really? Right when you walk through it, then I'm in it again. Wow. And I did get hyperemesis again, but I had a different mentality this time. I knew that I could get through it and that it was going to be okay. And that I had a support system that was going to walk me through it to the very end. And it was like a night and day difference. It was beautiful. And then after I had Story, I laid down my music again. Oh, you guys. Laying down my music every 2 seconds. But I had to like just say, hey, you know what? I'll come back. It's okay. Yeah. Like, I've done this before. It's going to be all right. It's still going to be there. Yeah. Don't panic.
Well, it's like you were saying, like, you have to have seasons where you focus on your own health, your physical health, your mental health. You were focusing on your family, and that was priority in that season of life. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's something really beautiful about that. And what I think is cool is we can then, like, hindsight's 2020, right? So I'm sure you can see now how that season has really fueled your music you're doing now, because you have so much life experience to pour into your songs, into your lyrics. And I think that's so beautiful.
It's so much. I'm using life experience. It definitely helps when you walk through something. You can help other people then walk through it. Yeah. And that's always been a big thing for me. Remember, like, back then when I was 17 years old, like, that was always something in the back of my head that I was thinking about. How can I use this music, not just for myself, but for other people? Yeah. After I had Story Joy, my sweet little Story Joy, she was a year old before I started recording again. And I recorded a 3-song project called the Life EP. And I decided to try to start doing music licensing again. Yeah. And that was kind of when I started getting back into it. And I started sending out emails. Like, I sent out probably 50 to 100 emails to music licensing agencies and libraries and all the things. I only heard back from one. And do you know what, though? The one that I heard back from was the one that signed my songs. Wow. And they got my songs onto So You Think You Can Dance.
No way.
Disney's Fairy Tale Wedding.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Dancing with the Stars Jr. 2 times. Wow. I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Amazing.
This is so crazy.
It's like the doors just opened up for you again when the time was right. And
the time was right, and I think that's the key.
Wow. So after you've gone through, like, so many difficult seasons, and you had to kind of, like you said, lay the music down for the sake of other things being priority, how beautiful then to see things kind of come full circle for you, and to see, like, there was still a plan and a purpose for you in music. And so tell the listeners now, like, how's it going? Like, what's happening in your world? What are you excited about?
Oh my gosh. So much has happened. I've learned a ton. I did a 12 songs in 12 months project, and I committed to writing and recording 12 songs in 12 months and then releasing them. So it was insane. It was like a crazy project. And I decided, because I had all those successes with music licensing on TV shows and things. And I was just like, I'm going to lean fully into this, and really just learn all that I can, get as much knowledge as I can, start networking with people, go to music licensing conferences, and just educate myself and network with people. And let me tell you what, I am in such good company with so many producers. I'm working with producers I never thought I would ever work with.
Wow.
I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Who am I? Have you seen me now?
Living your best life out here. I love it.
If I could have told myself back then when I was in depression where I would be now, man, what a cool story. It's just like that quote, this is just a chapter. It's not the whole story. If I could have told myself back then, my family is so beautiful. They're happy, healthy. And then I get to live my dreams of doing music. I get to record from home. I can record my vocals from home. So I could work with any producer in the country, basically.
So are you able to do this kind of full time now? Has that shifted to where this is like your full focus?
This is my full focus. Yeah. It's been an incredible journey and so much fun.
I love it.
And I'm living my best life every day.
That's awesome.
I just recorded vocals today in my new basement studio. And
It's looking very nice. I'm watching Heather on Zoom right now, y'all. We don't live in the same area, so it is a very, very cute studio, by the way.
It's so fun. And I just felt excited to be singing. I don't know. Okay. I'm a 7, Enneagram 7. If there's any Enneagram people out there, I get excited and hyper and happy about random things.
And that's what makes you you. And that's why I love you so much. You just exude so much joy and energy and excitement. And what I have to share, like Heather's recently gotten into the TikTok game. And I love, she's doing these little snippets that are like songwriter encouragement and little inspirations. So you guys go find Heather Evans on TikTok. What is it? Heather Evans Music?
Yep. Heather Evans Music.
She's just doing so many sweet things to encourage other artists and other songwriters. And I just love that about your heart, that you're doing a lot creatively in your own sphere, but then you're also always reaching outside to encourage others. And I think that's pretty awesome, girl.
Yes. I think that's the key for me too, is I love to mentor other artists and help them and encourage them on the journey, because I needed that, when I was just starting out. So I love to be able to give back in that way and to encourage other artists. So
I love that. So if you had to name like a source of kryptonite of self-doubt in your life that maybe has tried to keep you from pursuing your dreams, what's maybe one thing that's been a struggle for you that you had to overcome?
Okay, so my inner critic can be pretty brutal sometimes. I think we all deal with our inner critic, and my inner critic's kind of cute. He's like this fuzzy little, I call him the monster, but he's cute. He's not like super scary. You know what I mean?
All right.
And I actually wrote a song about it that is coming out next month.
Oh, no way.
The monster.
I love it.
The monster is my stinker little inner critic that says, you're not good enough. You're not enough. Producers don't really want to work with you. All these things. And something I found out about your inner critic is there to try to keep you safe. It's like your brain, your self-protective state that your brain goes into to try to keep you safe and to try to keep you from getting hurt. But the key is you've got to say no to that to create new neural pathways and say, no, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm going to be fine. You're going to be great. Don't worry about it,
Yes.
So it's like you've got to step out sometimes in big ways to show your inner critic who's boss and to show him it's not the end of the world. If I reach out to a producer on Instagram, I'm going to be okay. All right. And because I've been facing up to my inner critic, I've done some of the coolest things. I mean, I got to sing the national anthem whenever President Barack Obama was in town.
Wow.
I just said yes to that. I mean, my inner critic was like,
Amazing.
you can't do that. You're you're just a little tiny singer-songwriter. I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing it. I'm scared to death in front of 5,000 people, but I'm going to invite them all to sing with me. And it's going to be a moment. Okay. So back off, inner critic.
Yes. I love that. You just have such a fire in you, Heather. And I love that, like, I've seen that in you, that you just continue to be like a fighter, and that you do. It's like, it's like we have to retrain our brain to stop thinking so negatively and to start believing positive things. And I know I struggle with that too, those negative tapes that play in my head all the time.
It's a choice every single day. Are you going to listen to the monster today, or are you going to listen to your dreams and listen to adventure that's beckoning you and calling you to reach for the stars, you know?
Absolutely.
And I want to listen to that over stinking inner critic.
Amen. Well, I think the listeners are going to want to continue connecting with you, Heather. So why don't you let everyone know, besides TikTok at Heather Evans Music, where else they can find you if they want to come hunt down your amazing songs and encouragement?
Yes, Instagram, find me at Heather Evans Music, and also my website, Heather Evans Music. And I'm also on Spotify, iTunes, all the things. I'm releasing a song a month this year as well.
Awesome.
So not only did I do 12 songs in 12 months last year that are killer, I'm releasing a song every month. So you're going to want to know. You're going to want to be in the know about all that.
That's amazing. So make sure you guys go like on Spotify and click that follow button so you're sure to be notified when Heather has new releases. And you guys, her songs are amazing. I'm always so inspired. I know the one that you just put out, Come On, Let's Go. I'm like, oh my gosh, that one's on repeat. So good.
That was me talking to my inner critic and saying, come on, let's go. Let's shake off all our fears and let go, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go after it.
Yeah. It's so good. Your songs have such a great message, and they're always so powerful. So I've constantly got yours on repeat at my place, in my car. Oh man. Okay. So as we have tried to land the plane today, it's like, I feel like we could talk for hours, and we may continue doing that offline today. But for our listeners who maybe need to get on with their day, if you could leave us with some parting words of wisdom, if you were to talk to that inner critic, or even maybe to some haters in your life who didn't believe in you, what would you say now to that inner monster, or to those people who maybe didn't have faith in you back then?
I would say, you knew me when I was depressed, when I couldn't get up out of bed, when I didn't feel like I was enough, and that I had to give up on my dreams. But have you seen me now? I'm an overcomer.
Woo!
I'm victorious. I'm not afraid to go after the dreams in my heart. And have you seen me now?
I love that. Oh my gosh, Heather. I love your heart. I love your fire. I love everything about you.
I love you too.
Oh, thanks, Brett. It's been so special to spend this time together, and it just feels like such a treat. So thanks so much for being on this show today. You guys make sure to check out all of Heather's resources. There'll be information in the show notes if you want to connect more, and we'd love to have you back again another time, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to all my stellar rock stars out there, thank you so much for listening to the Have You Seen Me Now podcast. I'm your host, Sherilyn. I'll be talking to you again real soon, but until then, live loud and proud, my friends. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. I'm your greatest cheerleader, so come drop me a note anytime on my website, Instagram, or Facebook at Have You Seen Me Now. Have you seen me now? Do I look familiar? You tossed me out like yesterday's news, but now I'm center stage. Have you seen me now? You underestimate